So it's official because it's a part of the World Boxing Super Series tournament. So I guess to start the video off correct, I guess I should let the people know who don't know what it is because surprisingly, it's a big tournament globally, but not as big as it should be in the United States. So let me read their press release for those who don't know. In each weight class, 8 elite boxers will battle in an all-out bracket-style elimination tournament with 4 quarterfinals September and October of 2017, 2 semifinals January and February of 2018, and 1 final in May of 2018. The winners of the World Boxing Super Series will rightfully receive the greatest prize in boxing, the Muhammad Ali Trophy, also the WBC Diamond title. So basically, look at it like if you're a basketball fan, it's set up like the NBA playoffs. You know, eight fighters in the NBA. It's 8 teams, right? And basically, you know, the winner goes on to the next round. So the fight we're talking about in this video is Chris Eubank Jr. versus Anvi Yildirim. I got a chance to, I know I'm probably butchering his name. I got a chance to check out several fights on him over the last few weeks. And truth be told, I want to give him a chance, but he just doesn't have the work rate and or the boxing. He doesn't have the work rate to beat Chris Eubank Jr. However, we really don't know who he is, and the biggest fight on his resume is Marco Antonio Parabon. And of course, you know him from having that fight with Saki Obika. That at that point in time was like close to a fight of the year. I don't remember exactly. He fought Bado Jack, had a majority decision over Bado Jack. A lot of people felt, well, it was a draw, majority draw. A lot of people felt that maybe he had won the fight. And then, of course, J'Leon Love, and then James DeGale before James DeGale went on to be what James DeGale is today. That was like the last stepping stone for James DeGale. And I forgot what undercard that was. Was that the undercard of Frost Groves too? Whatever the case may be, Anvi Yildirim just in May, a couple of months ago, went 12 rounds with him. And truth be told, I wasn't impressed. And he has about 6 or 7 fights on YouTube that you're able to watch, but there's really nothing to base his resume off of. So he's a Turkish fighter. He's 16-0 with 10 KOs. And he has a slow work rate. And it's kind of hard to define his power because you have to define it on the level of competition of who he's been knocking out. Now, when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr., however, who only has that 1 defeat to Billy Joe Saunders, and a lot of people felt that if he would have put his foot on the gas earlier in the fight, he could have got a close decision win over Billy Joe Saunders because he started turning it on late. Then after that, he fought Dmitry Chutinov, Tony Jeter, Gary Spike O'Sullivan, Nick Blackwell, who he had put into a coma. He's cool now. You know, even though he decided to go back and sparring against the doctor's wishes and then got put back into another coma, right? But he's cool again now, thank God. You know, Tom Doran, Renaud Quinlan, when he won the highly coveted, seductive, and the alluring IBO title, and then he fought Arthur Abraham in the fight where I said, okay, all right, if he beats Arthur Abraham, that'll be a big name on his resume. But a lot of people felt that Arthur Abraham was over the hill anyway, because even though Abraham's only 37, which is young in today's generation of boxing, still he's got what I call a lot of city miles on him, a lot of stop and go traffic. You know, he's got a lot of fight. What's that? 54 pro fights. You know, Hall of Fame resume. Even though he's lost, depending on if you count like the names he's lost to his Hall of Fame. For example, you know, he's got Edison Miranda on there. You know, remember that he was in the World Boxing Super Series, knocked out Jermaine Taylor in the last round where he was losing. And many feel that, you know, Jermaine Taylor has brain damage because of those knockouts back then. You know, he that controversial fight with Andre Durrell that put Andre Durrell out of action for some time. Carl Froch, he fought Andre Ward. You know, Robert Stieglitz, what was that, 4 times? You know, Paul Smith twice. The first Paul Smith fight, I felt that he won, meaning Paul Smith should have been a draw, or Paul Smith should have won. He should have been a world champion. You know, he fought Martin Murray, Gilberto Ramirez, you know, within Chris Eubank Jr. So that, in my opinion, that was a nice win for Chris Eubank Jr., especially the fact that he just beat Arthur Abraham up and really tested his chin, even though Arthur Abraham once had his jaw brutally broken. So now I'm thinking, even though Chris Eubank Jr., we want more from him, and he does give you free hits. He does give you free hits. Does this Andy, how do you pronounce this guy's name? God damn it. I'm going to get it right. Yildirim. Yildirim. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out by the time we get to the fight. There's no date that's been announced yet for the fight. We know it's going to happen either in September or October. Likely October. Chris Eubank Jr. is currently here in the States or on his way to the States to Mayweather Gym to start working with them a little bit. So, as the tournament says, this first round has to happen in either September or October. In this case, since we're in August, going into mid-August. Right now it's actually August the 5th, not mid-August, we're at the very beginning. But this fight is going to have to take place in in October, we're going to say. And the winner of this fight between Eubank Jr. and Yildirim goes on to fight the winner of Jamie Cox, who's a pretty hot-headed fighter, but also a fighter who's still unknown in style, but he can really give. Well, he's a punching power. He's a pressure fighting power puncher, meaning Jamie Cox. But he has a hot-headed tendency, and also it's a very intriguing fight because George Groves seems to gas out late in fights and has trouble with pressure fighters like that, especially a young, hungry pressure fighter. So that fight's supposed to happen on October the 14th. Eubank Jr. versus Yildirim doesn't happen. Well, it doesn't have a date yet. So the winner of Eubank and Yildirim is going to fight the winner of George Groves versus Jamie Cox in the second round. And then you have Callum Smith versus Eric Skoglund. I always butcher his name too. And then the winner of Jürgen Brammer versus Rob Brandt in the in the other part of the bracket. So we could potentially see a Callum Smith versus a George Groves or a Chris Eubank Jr. Or in this case, the B-sides, Jamie Cox versus Yildirim or Eric Circlo versus. Basically, on the higher end, let me put it this way because I'm confusing myself, all right? And I don't want to confuse you guys. I'm going to put the link right down below in the description box so you can go check out the brackets. But this tournament is going to be lit. I just hope that there's no injuries or no failed drug tests. I hope that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do because there's a lot of money involved. It's $25 million spread across this division alone. It's a $50 million tournament. This is just the first season. This season is the cruiserweight division, the 168-pound division, and the 199, 200-pound division. The cruiserweight is 200 pounds. And 168 is super middleweight. I just hope, that there's no injuries and the boxers are doing what they got to do because there's a lot of money involved in this tournament. And also it's set up so that you're going to have some real major bargaining power when it comes to the table if we beat this tournament, and you win 3 fights from now until, from September until May. And usually fighters have about 2 fights between September and May, 2 fights a year. So you got to get in 3 fights, in less than a year's time. And I know they have like backups for injuries and things like that still, but I want to see this tournament stay intact because remember, you got guys like James DeGale and Gilberto Ramirez that's not in the tournament. You got guys, so, it's going to be very, very, very interesting. Also, with guys like David Benavidez, versus the guy he was just ordered to fight because Anthony Durrell allegedly is injured. So I'm highly interested in this tournament for so many different reasons, and just to think that we can get George Groves versus Chris Eubank, okay, people want to see Groves versus Eubank. All right, no disrespect to Jamie Cox and no disrespect to Yildirim, but they are the B-sides. In that second round, in January or February, just like the tournament says, we can see Groves versus Chris Eubank Jr. And Callum Smith, versus Chris Eubank Jr. or George Groves, in May in the finals. Shit is real. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all these fights. This was the Chris Eubank Envy Yildirim fight. We're going to talk more in detail about the George Groves versus Jamie Cox fight next. Once we get a date for Chris Eubank Jr. versus the Yildirim fight, of course, I'll do a video updating you guys. And basically, we're getting back into the swing of things. And the goal is for me is to really, really spread my wings and to let people know that I can do it like I used to by making sure that I commit to cover every single one of these World Boxing Super Series fights on YouTube. I'm talking about after everyone goes off, do a post-fight video. Every single one. In fact, I'm going to create a playlist for these videos. And we've already reached out to the World Boxing Super Series, you know, for, you know, I'm not going to go into details. As I've already said, our goal is not to catch up to our competition. Our goal is to leapfrog them. We're approaching a 1-year anniversary of Fight View 360, which will be in January. Was it February? Was it January or February? I don't remember. But either way, now that we're set, we're making moves. And truth be told, if we want to, we can be at those fights. And we may, depending on which one where they land at, we may be at some of them. I wish we just were there to cover them all. But it is what it is. So as soon as the date is announced, you know, we're going to talk about it. Right now, like I said, I'm going with Chris Eubank Jr. Yildirim just doesn't have a high punch output. But however, you got to give him a chance because Chris Eubank Jr. gives you free punches when he does that showboat and turns his back and shit. You know, so remember, this guy's undefeated. Maybe this is his chance to show us who he is. We've seen it happen before. So even though Chris Eubank Jr. is the favorite, and from watching, you know, footage, several fights over the last few weeks on Yildirim, you know, whether a one-round knockout to whatever the case may be, and watching them go to the distance with Marco Antonio Parabon and somebody else. Was it Pryor? I forgot, but whatever. You know, I'm looking at him from the way we see Chris Eubank Jr. fight. Chris Eubank Jr. may just beat him up. You know, it may be ugly. So, you know, let's just hope that this dude is really the real deal. You know, or you know, not necessarily the real deal, but if he's not, you know, just some guy who's made it into the tournament. I was trying to find out who his promoter is. I thought he was Sarlin Promotions. I wanted to go check out their page. You know, he's not on there. Who's this guy's promoter? You know, but whatever. Hey, you know, shout out to him because he's making some big money. You know, so whoever got him in this tournament got some power, got some clout. I'm Teacher Controversy. This is Teacher Controversy Live. I cover every single major fight live. Please subscribe.